Hey guys, it's Ilana and welcome back to my channel. I never really wanted to make this video in the first place. For this video, I am just going to be talking about how done I am. I am really fed up with the year 2020. I feel that nothing good has come out of it. I have been thrown a ton of curveballs and it's just really impacting my mental well-being, and I wanted to chat about it with y'all. So if we're ready to learn the shit show of what this year has been like for me, we're about to get into it right now. Before I get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I post content about what it's like to live in San Francisco and how to navigate life in SF. So if you're thinking about moving to the Bay Area, you already live in the Bay Area, and you want to learn how to keep navigating it, just like me, hit the subscribe button down below. So, let's talk about 2020. We're already halfway done with this year, and it's crazy how much time has flown by. I know this has been a really tough year on a ton of people. A lot of bad things have happened. We have COVID, we have all the racism that's been occurring in the country, and it just feels like the world is just not a fun place to live in at the moment. I remember I was really excited for 2020 to happen. I was ready to accomplish a ton of things that I didn't get to do in 2019. I had goals and aspirations that I set for myself. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some that I've already accomplished, but we'll talk about that towards the end of the year. That's not the point of this video. I didn't realize that 2020 was going to be a year of setbacks, of pitfalls, just an emotional year. Especially for me. I really didn't see any of this coming. So let's just kind of talk about what's really been going on in my life and just why I am so done. As you may know, in January, I filmed a video of myself crying in front of a camera, talking about how I got fired from my job back in November and how it was forcing me to leave San Francisco. So January 31st was the day that I moved out of San Francisco and I went back to my hometown, which is Richmond, Virginia. I lived with my parents until March 23rd. It was a really difficult time living with my parents. I don't really have the closest relationship with my family. I am a lot different than people in my family. I'm more outspoken. I march to the beat of my own drum. I don't live life the way that they like to live life. They seem that they've had their life chosen for me, and that's not how I want to live, so they get really pissed off, and they just don't really understand. So dealing with people who are different than you in your own family is really rough. I just kind of felt like I was living through personal hell by staying with my family. Don't get me wrong, I was very grateful to have a roof over my head and a place to go. But it's tough when you don't really have a close relationship with your parents. And I knew that I could not quarantine with my parents any longer, or else I would literally fall into depression. This brings me to February. So with the month of February, I was basically in Virginia the whole time. I barely left the house because I didn't want to be seen by anyone from my high school who still existed there. I hate so many people that live in Richmond except for my two friends that I have. I only got to see one of them when I was there because then COVID started to become a thing and I couldn't really see my friends once people were saying, don't see other people, don't be around other people. That sucked, but it was also a good thing for me because I didn't have to interact with anyone that I went to high school with or actually run into them. So that was really nice. But being with my family, again, was tough. I just kept getting yelled at, get a job, get a job, get a job by my mom, and that was super unhelpful because, woman, what do you think I'm doing? I'm literally applying for jobs. My mom kept saying, you need to get a job here in Richmond, you need to get a job here in Virginia, you need to stay on the East Coast. No, I don't need to stay on the East Coast. I don't want to be here. Stop acting like you're so close with me that you want me to be near you. She couldn't really wrap her head about like why I wanted to be in California. But I was feeling really lost though. I had applied to a ton of jobs, was interviewing with a lot of places, wasn't having much success. I was starting to feel really lost about what I wanted to do in my life. I will say in February, I did get to go to Atlanta. I got to visit my best friend, so that really helped me get away from all of the toxicity that I felt like I was experiencing back at home. And then eventually when I got back, I had 3 interviews lined up, and that was amazing. And then eventually I got a job. So let's go to March. Beginning of March, I got 2 offers from 2 different companies, obviously. And I ended up picking a company that I wanted to work for. So I had to move back to San Francisco date for March 23rd, and my start date for my job was March 30th. I told myself I'm about to move back to San Francisco better than ever. This is going to be a huge reset for me. I'm going to have a new apartment. I'm going to have a better living situation. I'm going to have a better paying job. I can finally date people again, even though it's still COVID times, but I'm still going to make it happen anyway. I just knew that I was going to come back to San Francisco better than ever. And that's what it felt like when I first got in. So let's talk about that. It took me about 2 weeks to find a great apartment. I ended up moving into the Haight, which is probably not a surprise, seeing as of all the footage I filmed during a bunch of quarantine videos and where I was. It's quite obvious to see that I was living in the Haight. I loved that neighborhood. I loved the apartment that I was in. And then shortly after I moved back to San Francisco, as I mentioned in a previous video that I filmed 2 weeks ago, I met somebody really great and we were dating for 2 months. And unfortunately, we ended things. When I moved back to San Francisco, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting a new job. I'm starting contest prep again at a better weight. I'm seeing this really great person. I have this great apartment. Life is really going well. I think I am coming back to San Francisco better than ever. This is amazing. So I thought. So this is where the shit show happens in April. So it's April. I am still continuing to see the person that I'm seeing. I am still working my great job. I had just finished putting together my great room in my apartment. Life was going well until April 17th rolled around. And I got a call from my boss at 10:30 in the morning saying that I had been affected by COVID and I have officially lost my job. I didn't know what to think of it at first. I had spent so much money in the past couple of months moving from San Francisco to Virginia and then moving from Virginia back to San Francisco. I literally worked my ass off driving for Postmates to relocate myself back to San Francisco so I could pay for my luggage, so I could pay for my apartment, so I could ship all of my belongings back to the city. That cost me a ton of money, and I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on new furniture. I literally worked my ass off to get back to San Francisco, to find a new apartment. I put so much money down. All of the money that I had left and that I had earned, and the deposit that I got back from my other apartment to put it down for a new apartment, that was literally all I had left. I literally used every single last dollar I had to move back, only to get laid off from my job 3 weeks later. I had never felt so defeated in my life. I did handle my layoff a lot better than I had handled my other job loss because I knew that I couldn't get evicted. I knew that I could refile for unemployment, and I also knew that there were a lot of contract jobs that were hiring for workers like Instacart, and I ended up getting 2 shopping jobs with Instacart at Amazon Prime, which I'll talk about in just a second. April tested me with losing my job, and I was unemployed for a couple of weeks. I was really pissed because I had finally had this financially secure job that paid more than I'd ever made in my life. I finally felt financially comfortable, and then that got taken away from me. So let's just go on to May, why don't we? In May, I got a part-time recruiting job with my current company, and I decided to drop Amazon Prime because I wasn't getting any hours with that job, and I kept Instacart. So I'm officially working 2 part-time jobs again, so technically I'm employed, but I don't have a full-time job. So part of me still feels like I'm really unemployed. That was great that I got that job. I was able to find a recruiting job during a global pandemic because there aren't any recruiting jobs right now. And then towards the end of May, 2 things happened. First thing that happened was getting broken up with. That stung. That took me a couple days to process and be sad about. And I made a whole video about which you can watch after this one. You can click on it right here when this video is over. And then also in May, the country experienced tons of racism. And I do apologize that I never brought up the racism that went on. I was actually very vocal about it on Instagram. I decided that was a platform that I wanted to use to talk about it. And it was so much easier to do that on Instagram. So I don't want you to think that I never addressed it, because I certainly did. I just did it on another platform. So that made me feel really done with this year, how this was still an issue and how it took the country this long to wake up when these issues should have never been a wake-up call. This has been happening since the 1600s. And people are just starting to wake up and realize, oh, racism, it exists, and we're just discovering that. Ugh. May tested me on an emotional level, and then it also tested people of color when this happened, and May was a really bad month. So June happens. More curveballs thrown at me. June was stressful because we were on a deadline to find our replacement roommate. So the master tenant of our apartment was moving out. The three of us remaining in the apartment wanted to sign a new lease with our landlord, and we would find a fourth person. Our landlord was not approving our total income, but that's only because we were still trying to find a fourth person. If we found a fourth person, then our income would have met the requirements to keep the apartment. So long story short, nobody replied back to our ad. We couldn't find a fourth roommate. And that was really frustrating because we all really loved our apartment a ton. We loved our location. We loved the features that the apartment had. Moving is stressful and expensive. We didn't want to deal with it. But unfortunately, we lost the battle, so I ended up losing my apartment. As you can see, I am not in my old apartment. I'm actually in a house. I'm subletting my friend's room for at least the month of July, which I'll talk about in a second. So now I've lost my job, I lost somebody that I was dating, and then I lost my home. Can you just imagine experiencing all of that in 2 months? How stressful and emotionally taxing that is? I'm just so done. I don't want to keep losing things. But it gets better. I have more. Let's just talk about July now. Here I am in my friend's house, subletting her room for at least the month of July. Place is great, I'm not gonna lie. I really like the people that live here. It's a really nice space. I'm in a good location. So it's 4th of July, which is why I'm wearing this extra sweater and my makeup is done like this. And yesterday on July 3rd, I found out that my show has gotten pushed back, which shouldn't really come as a surprise to anyone. It was scheduled for August 8th, now it's scheduled for September 26th. It really frustrated me because, well, yes, I can still do the new date, it just makes my prep a lot longer than I wanted to be. I really wanted to be done with my season in August, now I have to wait until September. Now the silver lining is that it gives me more time to prepare for this show. I'm sitting around 110, 111 pounds right now, it fluctuates. So my body's in a really good spot to be 12 weeks out from my show. So I do expect my body to look fantastic the day that the show happens, but I'm just mad because it's a lot longer than I wanted it to be. I will say, because of the pushback, I did take a diet break today so I could enjoy the 4th and not have to worry about food. My coach is completely changing my plan, so I'm curious to know what that's gonna entail. It was nice to eat some pizza today, to eat some French fries, and to just not have to worry about prep for once. I do feel really disgusting and bloated at the moment. I'm not gonna lie, I've been craving pizza for the past month and a half, so I'll see some silver lining in that. It's really such a buzzkill knowing that your show's being pushed back, and who knows if it'll get pushed back again. This show still could never happen. There's still so much uncertainty because the COVID cases are going back up again, and that scares me. So I want to kind of talk about the future ahead because some of this might come as a shock to you. Here's the thing, if I am not fully employed by 2021, I will make the choice to leave San Francisco on my own terms. Now, I'm not going to move back to Virginia. I'm not going to move to another city in California. Honestly, I don't think I even want to live in the US anymore. I have been thinking about moving out of the country for a while. When I was unemployed the first time around, I had applied to a job in Sydney, Australia. I mean, I never heard back from them, but I thought to myself and I was thinking, I could really see myself living in Australia or even New Zealand. One of the reasons I had applied to a job in Australia is because when I was little, I had a really strong obsession with Australia and New Zealand. It was honestly more New Zealand than Australia. I was really little. I was a huge nerd. I would literally check out books from the library on Australia and New Zealand, would read them. I was just so fascinated by it, and I really wanted to visit. I remember when I met my first person from New Zealand when I was literally 10 or 11 years old. That was so cool and exciting because I asked them so many questions as a little kid. Oh my god, I was so funny and embarrassing. I just had gotten myself thinking, I think I would really like living there. I've always liked Australia. I love Australian people, New Zealand people. I watch Australian television shows. I watch Australian YouTubers. I own products from Australian brands. Kind of got a little bit of an Australian kick going on. The guy that I just was dating was Australian. And I swear, he is not my motive for moving to Australia, but I can't lie. You can't beat an Australian accent. You can't beat Australian men. They're pretty hot. Please, that's not why I want to move. It's a possibility, but the thing is, I've never been to Australia or New Zealand ever. So I need to visit the countries before I even make that decision. I need to determine which country is going to be a better fit for me, and then I need to visit a couple of cities to see which city in Australia or New Zealand is even going to be the right fit for me. So before I make any strong decisions here, I gotta visit first. And I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that because I'm pretty sure the borders are still closed at the moment. We'll see what happens with that. That's going to take some time to get there, but it's something I'm contemplating. And if I make this happen, I will be really, really proud of myself and impressed with myself for even being able to move myself to a whole nother country. I just feel really done. And I don't know if this is because COVID's happening. I just feel like San Francisco isn't what it used to be anymore. And obviously, I'm still gonna keep making San Francisco videos. I actually, love living in San Francisco. I think for me, I'm feeling very burnt out. Part of me feels like I need a reset in my life. I'm just not sure how much longer I can live like this because it's starting to get really lonely and it's starting to just not become enjoyable anymore. And even if COVID does end, will I still feel happy here? I don't know. I just feel like I have a lot of doubts going on in my head right now when I'm feeling really scared. I don't know if COVID's been playing mind games with me, but I feel really confused and lost. I just want to see what happens within the next couple of months to see where I stand in terms of employment and in terms of happiness. Because I'm also wondering if maybe just not being fully employed is causing me to feel this way. I don't know. I've never felt so confused in my life. I feel really done with 2020. I feel like it's been just bad news after bad news after bad news, and I'm just really done. That was my rant. I'm sorry I made this video a lot longer than I wanted to. I'm sorry for even making this video in the first place. I will still be doing San Francisco content, and it will be content that I will want to film, and it will be content that I do think y'all will really enjoy. Y'all have been so supportive with me focusing more on San Francisco stuff as opposed to dating stuff, and I'm so happy to hear that. I do love making these SF videos for you. If you feel like you can relate to anything that I shared with y'all, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below and let me know how you're doing right now. I want to know how my subscribers are and what they're going through at this moment. Let's talk about it together, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.